Sauce.
Hey, you like Pez?
It looks like that. Here's Heaney from the boundary line. He's an expert at these. From the boundary line!
Hello and welcome to Behind the Boundary podcast. I'm your host, Pez, and you are here for our show called Season Over, one of my favourite shows in the whole year because we get to take the piss out of every club that is not in the AFL anymore. And I am here to do it with Sauce.
Hey, Pez, a little bit disappointing that you've started off the show with kicking teams out of the AFL. Let's not jump over that oversight. But I can't believe you haven't started off the show with our man, JB, Jesse Baird, coming into the finals, kicking David Roden out of his final spot, debuting for the first time in the elimination of Final 2, a big game, knockout finals footy, St Kilda versus the Doggies, mate. How did you not start the show with that?
I didn't start the show with that because I knew you were super excited. You messaged me the screenshot of the umpires being announced, and we had Jesse Baird there with his debut in the finals, which we are both super excited about. Our new favourite goal umpire, and a sneaky David Roden. He's emergency.
You heard it here first on Behind the Boundary a couple of weeks ago when he had that blunder of the goal review, the first one of his career, I think. We said that it would cost him finals, and we were not wrong. Named as an emergency for the second qualifying final. Bit disappointing for David Roden after a bit of a shaky year, actually.
Yeah, shaky year, which ended in a goal review and ended in a career over. So Behind the Boundary don't take any prisoners. So if you review that goal, you're not our favourite goal umpire anymore. We'll find someone new. And we've found the man. We found Jesse Baird, and he is going to perform in that elimination final. Yeah,
big day for the debutant JB. Hopefully he does well. I know he's going to do well. He's got so much confidence and swagger when he goes through to that goal umpire. Oh, I can't wait for that game on Saturday and to see him
It doesn't even matter. Your club's in Geelong. My club's in St Kilda, but we're not even excited about that. We're just riding our man, JB, all the way to the grand final. Get him a debut. Try and get him at both ends if we can. I don't know how we can do it. Just if you can get that man at both ends, you won't have any scoreboard blunders, no arc. Just close the arc. Close the arc for the day. Jesse Baird will take care of it.
Why not just get some sort of hashtag going? You know, you've got the starters. Pez have got stand with Skeets. Maybe we could get one with salute with Jesse, salute with Jesse, or something like.
Yeah, what's it called?
I don't know. I was trying to think of what it is. Like the guns, the
not a finger bang, is it? Not a finger bang.
Finger bang with Jesse. I feel like if you turned that into Twitter, you might get some different results than the goal umpire. I can't believe you said that, Pez.
Oh well, we did, and I was watching a little bit of Totally Wild on the weekend, as we said, because he is a host over there as well on Channel 10. So great show, and I am glad though to have the footy back this week.
I'm very glad to have the footy back. We're talking about Totally Wild and goal umpires, Pez. But we do need to get into some football. You're right, it was a big week in football with a lot of things happening. But for some clubs, their season has been over for now a little bit of over a week. And we need to get into, as you said, one of the great segments of the show. It's a shame that we only get to use it about 4 times a year because I work super hard on the intro. I mean, the media manager works super hard on the intro. But are you ready for it, Pez? Are you ready to get into Season's Over?
Yeah, let's play. I forgot what this intro is, actually.
How did you forget that, Pez? Like that's going to be stuck in
well,
your head
you
for
said
months.
we only do it 4 times a year. I haven't done it since the grand final last year. So and that was a disappointing day as well when we painted the town orange and then had to repaint it yellow and black. It was no good. But this segment, Sauce, you did say it's one of our favourites here at Behind the Boundary. We know, as listeners would know, every segment is one of our favourites, but this is one of our favourites. And what we get to do is we get to come up with a little bit of hashtag, bring your own hashtag as well. We start from the bottom of the ladder, we work our way up, and just because the season's over does not mean we stop talking about your team, because we're going to talk about your team. We're going to talk about where they finished. We're going to give them a hashtag and have a bit of a play on words in some cases, and we'll have a bit of a chat about where to next for the clubs.
Exactly right, Pez. We go through where they finished, how many wings. We give it a nice little cheeky hashtag, a little bit of fun. a little bit of seriousness as well. We go through your delistings, and then we don't talk about your team again for the until next season because your season's over. No, just kidding. We do get into your teams throughout the thing, but it is good to reflect on the season that was, what's coming next, and you know, for some of those supporters down the bottom of the ladder, you know, you get an extra week of talking about your team.
I'd say a little bit of a precursor as well, because every media outlet for footy is actually talking about the finals at the moment. We're just doing a little bit of a precursor. We're talking about the teams that are out, and we get to do our big final show coming up as well, where we get to preview the 4 finals this week, which are going to be absolutely massive. But instead of talking about the top 8, let's talk about the bottom 10, and let's get into the wooden spooners first, Sauce.
Yeah, let's get into the Adelaide Crows. So the Adelaide Crows had an absolute shocker of the season. They only won 3 games for the year. As you said, they finished bottom. They won their first wooden spoon. They looked like going the whole season without a win until they did get some towards the end. They would have been the first team since Fitzroy in 1964. Pez, what was your hashtag for the Crows?
Oh, the hashtag. Hashtag pitch your tents. And the reason you're going to be pitching your tents is because they're going to be camping down the bottom for a little while. So Adelaide Crows fans, pitch your tents. You're losing a few players as well. There's been mass exodus since the 2017 grand final, and it's not looking too good for the club. You've got a new coach in there, rookie coach, who didn't win a game for a long while. They won 3 in a row at the end there, showed a little bit of hope towards the end, but they've got to try and fix that culture. And with what Brad Crouch did on the weekend, it's not looking good at the moment.
No, not looking good at all. And that supports my hashtag, Pez. I went hashtag murdered. So a little play on words there for a collection. The collective noun for a group of crows is a murder, and they were murdered this year. 2017, they committed the crime, and they have been paying for it ever since. It's a long turnaround. Hopefully it's not 10 and done, but they were absolutely deplorable. They were non-competitive against a range of different sides, but what's really disappointing for the Crows is they were non-competitive against some of those bottom sides as well, having huge losses to Gold Coast and North Melbourne, and there wasn't much to be positive about this year for the Crows.
No, not too many positives at all, which is disappointing when you're a team down the bottom of the ladder, because you know they probably tried to reload a little bit. They've got a couple of senior players there, and they've got to know now that it's time for a rebuild and get used to being down in the bottom 4.
Yeah, most definitely. Now they did have some positive signs. They had some players that really stepped up. They had Riley O'Brien, who won their best and fairest during the week. You know, a really promising sort of ruckman sort of player who's going to who, despite his inability to socialise online through his Twitter feed, he did demonstrate at times some really great football.
Yeah, that's it, and that's the hope that people at the bottom, or team supporters at the bottom of the ladder, really have. So you're kind of hoping that some of these players really come on and are able to compete with the best of teams. But it is a massive gap between the top 4 and the bottom 4. And with equality and things like that within the AFL and equalisation, it is tough. And there's always going to be a top 4, and there's always going to be a bottom 4. And there's always going to be a bit of a gap, I think, Sauce. It's not going to be that even type of season where every team is in contention to make finals and things like that. There's always going to be the crap down the bottom.
Yeah, most definitely. And, you know, like you say that those sort of promising signs going ahead, it is, you know, you and I both follow the Minnesota Timberwolves. Looking forward to the draft is always fun when your team's not very good. So, you know, the Crows can look forward to having the number 1 pick, even though despite it's probably going to go to an academy player in the Western Bulldogs. They'll probably take the best player of the lot. But they are looking to get, you know, some compensation probably for Matt Crouch when he goes there, probably looking, you know, two picks in the top 10. So quite good for the Crows, and it's good for them to looking forward.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with that contract for Brad Crouch and what the compensation will be as well if they lose some value with that drug strike and things like that. But Crows, see you later for the season. Your season's over, done.
Yeah, speaking to some of those other players, and it's a shame that we have to say goodbye to some of these players, but Bryce Gibbs retired, Riley Knight delisted, Alice Taylor delisted, and Patrick Wilson delisted. So huge loss there in and Riley Knight, which is probably the biggest name out of those. Bryce Gibbs obviously struggled to get into that senior side and has hung up the boots, finishing his career as an AFL footballer. Yeah,
Gibbs couldn't really get any consistency going at the Adelaide Crows after having a good year in his last final year at Carlton there. Riley Knight playing in that 2017 grand final, Sauce, and being delisted is showing where his career has really gone to. They've lost so much more over the last few seasons, and I imagine that list is going to get a little bit longer. And just who are they going to go after? They've probably got the ruck there. They probably need a few more leaders around the club. Do they go for that older type player who's got the culture behind them that can bring that in? We don't really know. So we look forward to seeing what Adelaide do in the off season and see if they can bounce back and have a better performance in 2021.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, Pez, we move on to the next side on our season over review. I know that you're loving this one. You can't wait to get into this one. We go to your favourite, North Melbourne Kangaroos. They finished second last, 3 wins, and very disappointing for the Roos after a lot of North Melbourne supporters thought they were going to be very competitive this year, but very similar story to the Adelaide Crows, not to be seen anywhere near being competitive for most of the year.
Mate, a lot of North supporters think that every single year, and I don't know why. They should have started a rebuild a long time ago. So good to see that they've actually started that. But I've got a hashtag GOAT. You know what GOAT stands for, Sauce?
It's normally greatest of all time, but I'm guessing it's nowhere near that. So
it actually is. It actually is. I've just added another word to the end of it. So we've got greatest of all time comedians, because this club is an absolute joke. We're looking at absolute comedy gold. So instead of watching stand up on Netflix, cancel your subscription. Just watch any game of North from the 2020 season, and you'll have a bunch of laughs. The best thing about this club is the hiring of their coach, Reece Shaw. Absolutely love it. I have mentioned it on the show before. Have a look at any of his interviews or press conferences, and I'm still waiting on the media manager to get me that on loop, because that's what's going to be going on in my off-season Sauce. So, the greatest of all-time comedic football club, and they're not going anywhere. It's good to see that they've delisted a lot of players. Ben Brown, see you later, shown the door. Higgins, go find another club. They're just getting rid of everyone, shutting up shop and saying, you know what, we're going to be at the bottom of the ladder for at least the next 5 years. I love it.
That's a perfect segue to my hashtag there, Pez, with your 5 years reference, because my hashtag is something that I've been echoing on this show and in my own time, anytime personally I'm talking about football. My hashtag for North Melbourne is hashtag 5 years too late. 2014 really, really, really screwed the club. They finished 10th in 2013. And then, of course, they had that miraculous sort of easy fixture, and they made their way up to, I think it was about 6th. After that, they absolutely should have started their rebuild. They should have realised that what they hid the last couple of years before that, hitting 8th. But instead, they topped up players, and they've not been competitive since. You look at the teams that finished down the bottom of 2014, not in order: Brisbane, St Kilda, Melbourne, Western Bulldogs, and GWS. Western Bulldogs have actually won a premiership since then. GWS have been to a grand final. Brisbane are sitting top of the ladder. St Kilda and Melbourne have both had finals runs, are about to have them. And North Melbourne have gone the absolute opposite direction, and they probably should have started their rebuild, and it's going to be another 6 years before they even get decent. So,
I was telling North fans early on, they were saying, but we made preliminary finals. Yeah, you made them from 6th and 7th, and you got smashed by 10 plus goals. You weren't ready for those finals. You didn't have the list ready for anything. Brad Scott saw the writing on the wall and said, you know what, I'm going to save my skin here. I'm getting out while I can. And they went and hired Reece. I don't want to speak about this club anymore. You're done for the year, North. See you later.
Yeah, they are done. There are some promising signs from North Melbourne, from some of the young players. Despite not having a game plan for much of the year, they sort of wanted to play that sort of inside-out football and play it safe down the line, but their skill level didn't do it. There were some positive signs from Reece Shaw's North Melbourne. Jai Simpkin finally had a great run of a season, averaging 20 disposals, but the fact that we mentioned the word finally in there just shows you how they've really blundered young potential talent. You had their probably best year from Luke McDonald that he's already had. But again, we're clutching at straws when we're talking about positives for North Melbourne. Sean Higgins was, honourable, and Trent Dumont was there for most of the year and did all right. But there were too many players that couldn't get into their regular side. They had a constant shuffle of players throughout the year. They used 39 different players. Right, 39 different players for the year, which is crazy. And they just lacked skill, identity, and there were too many people that couldn't get into their regular side for a team that was sitting down the bottom I don't understand North Melbourne.
Yeah, they're going to have the biggest list turnover, and it's about time. But they need to do that with the coaching panel as well. They shouldn't have even hired Mr. Reece Shaw after eating the lollies in his first game or whatever. But he just doesn't know what's going on. But anyway, they've listed some players. You mentioned 4 players that were positive. I can probably only name 2 more. Todd Goldstein, who's a very good ruckman, but it's probably not a positive for him because he's wasting his days out in that side. And another one, Cameron Zerha, who is a really good forward, one of the strongest players in the AFL, especially in a one-on-one contest, and no one can take that man to ground. And he's a player that I really like to watch, but the ball hardly goes into the forward line, but he does do his job.
All right. So we obviously know what they need to do to improve. They need to just get young talent. What do they do with the rest of their list? What do they do with Goldstein? Do they try and trade him for picks? Like, what do they do with these players? Do they just empty shop completely?
It's a couple of years too late for that as well. Like, they're not going to get the value that he had a couple of years ago when the talk was around that and Goldstein going, and they had Proust there that they could have got for a lot cheaper and got Goldstein out for a pick and started their rebuild at least 2 years ago. They should have done it 5 years ago, Sauce, I agree with you, but at least 2 years ago when Brad Scott went out, changed a coach and things like that. That's ridiculous. They need a lot. Ben Brown, I think, is a victim here. Like, he had a poor season, but he did kick 60 goals the year before that. He didn't get the ball down in the forward line. He's a really good set shot at goal. He probably can't play in the one-on-one contests and things like that, but with the way footy's going and getting a lot of space, if he can go to a club that can get the ball in there and he can have a lot of shots at goal, he'll kick a lot of goals.
Yeah, he's probably a product of a poor game plan and inefficiency going forward. And, when you don't have the ball down there a lot, you're not obviously going to kick a lot of goals. But North Melbourne, I'm glad that they're making that move, and they've definitely offered him up for trade, and they're not clutching at straws. I hope they do the same with Goldstein, and I hope that, they get stuff back and they don't get... I've been watching... I don't know if you've ever watched... Have you watched a TV show called The League? It's about a fantasy football, and they use a term all the time. It's a little bit derogative. They use a word called trade raped, because no one wants to deal with these people and they just give them whatever because no one wants to deal with them. And I hope that's not what happens, because a lot of people don't want to go to North Melbourne because of the facilities and the troubles. And I hope they get decent picks back for what they're going to give up. And I hope they are successful in a rebuild. They're one of the oldest clubs there. I've got a soft spot for them because my old man follows them, and I would hate to see them bottom out like this.
I agree with you. I hope they do get some really good picks and get some absolute guns like the Matt Rowell type and things in there. And then they'll realise that it's a crock of shit and they'll leave after 2 seasons and it'll be good and they'll stay down the bottom. I'll love it.
Right, speaking of people that are leaving, I'm going to gloss over that, Pez. You mentioned that they did have a lot of delistings. Have you got the delistings up there, Pez, or would you like me to run through them?
Oh, I do. You got Paul Ahern, who came from GWS. He's gone. Joel Crocker. Majak Dor, who is a great story for footy, and I wonder if he finds a new home. Sam Durden. Lockie Hosey, who a young type forward who kicked a few goals this year. Ben Jacobs, who came from Port Adelaide earlier on. Jamie McMillan, who's been serviceable for about 10 years. Tom Murphy. Jasper Pittard, who was a failed recruit. Marley Williams, another failed recruit. And Mason Wood, who was much maligned by the North supporters with his effort and things at the end of that season.
Yeah, most definitely. My dad, when they went through that list, the only one he was actually a bit upset was good old Hosey, because he had one good game when they thumped someone and he kicked 3 or 4 goals, and he's like, why are they dumping him? I'm like, mate, he was the only bloke that kicked decent goals for him in one game. Just get rid of him. Just hit the restart button, get them all out of there, start from fresh, bud.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I'm very happy now because we actually get to stop talking about this joke of a club, so it's great.
We do. We get on to the 16th spot, the Sydney Swans. They finished the season with 5 wins, where it's probably a pretty serviceable season for the Sydney Swans. Many people thought that it was the rebuild season. The only story that we were talking about before the year was Buddy Franklin kicking, kicking an amount of goals and, sort of breaking those records, but not to be, because he didn't play a game. So, Pez, what is your hashtag for Sydney?
Yeah, my hashtag for Sydney, if you thought Buddy was going to play, you would have had them up the ladder a bit more. If you thought he wasn't going to play, you'd have him down there as well. So my one is actually hashtag forward thinking. Now, the reason it's forward thinking is because Papley said he's going to stay. He's going to stay at Sydney Swans. Isaac Heaney, our main man, coming back from injury. Decent forward. Buddy Franklin, another one. And Jeremy Cameron might be on their radar as well. So let's see, if you've got those 4 forwards in a footy club, you have to be making finals.
Yeah, most definitely. I've sort of gone in the same sort of reign there, Pez, with that sort of forward sort of hashtag. You know when I don't know if you're going to understand this or not. You're probably going to have a bit of a giggle, but mine is actually a bit of play on words. I've got the hashtag Papsmear.
Yeah.
So,
Tom Paps?
Yep, obviously Tom Papsley. But, when you go get a pap smear, well, I'm not going to go get a pap smear, but people that go and get pap smears, they're checking for stuff and they're looking for the future, and that's exactly what Sydney are doing. They spent this year looking for stuff, and they definitely found stuff, as you said, in terms of their talent up forward. Papley, Heaney's already a gun, and they also found some other gems in there. Callum Mills had a really strong year as a small defender. Jake Lloyd and Dane Rampy were fantastic as always. Dane Rampy when he can get on the pitch. But James Rowbottom, they found a Swans midfielder going forward for the long run. But the only concern that I have for them is this 9-year contract that Buddy Franklin still hasn't been able to execute. 10 games in 2 seasons. You say that they've got a lot of forward potential, like the pun intended. Do they get him on the park in 2021?
No, he has to. He came in the bubble. Get him up and about. Get him ready, right to go. He's been training and things like that. But I can't talk about Sydney anymore because I'm still thinking about what you think of Pap smears. You're talking about you're looking into the future. So the person doing the Pap smear is just looking into a time machine. Is this what happens?
Well, that's what you do. Obviously a Pap smear you're using to identify cancer, and that's what you're doing. You're looking forward to find, see if there's any problems. If there's not any problems, smooth sailing, future's good. If there is a problem, you need to identify it. And the outlook is good for Sydney Swans.
Could be Buddy's injury. Could be the big thing that could be wrong with the
exactly
Pap smear,
right.
or it could be right.
It could be the derailing moment for the Pap smear, but it doesn't. I think the outlook is good. No cancer in Sydney. They're definitely going forward with some.
Congratulations to you as well, Sauce. Congratulations, mate. You've just broken the world record for saying the word Pap smear on a footy podcast the most times ever.
Yeah, well, that's a bit harsh there, Pez. So
we've said it about 22 times.
All right, I'll stop saying it then. So what do they need to do next, Pez? We're next for the Swans?
Yeah, I can't say that. Yeah, I don't know. Up the ladder, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, really glad we spoke to them. I think that you mentioned a really good point there of the interest from Jeremy Cameron. If GWS do decide not to run with him or do his contract with Riccardi there, offering some promise. Other than that, they probably just need just a decent sort of ruckman, because they seem to have a decent sort of game plan. They are exciting when they go forward. They probably just need a decent ruckman, which is hard to find in the AFL, to be able to sort of navigate that ball down to some of those mids and get the ball going.
Toddy Goldstein.
He would be a perfect fit for Sydney, especially with that age bracket. And if you also can get Joe Danaher or Jeremy Cameron in there as well, Buddy Franklin in there, they could definitely finish about 10th or 12th if they, 10th, 11th, 12th. That's decent. That's a decent upbringing for Sydney. Many people predicted them to be down the, last of the ladder, not win a game.
Yeah, no, and they've got a core in there. They've got some midfielders. They've got some defenders as well. So, they've got a good coach there, Longmire, who's done the test of time and done the apprenticeship under Paul Roos for all those years. And he's very emotional still, and he's very invested. So continue fighting.
They have to be one of the best coaches box. Stevie J, Cox, and Longmuir in there, and it's just literally horses for courses. Everyone is arguing with everyone. It's the best to watch. And you know what? It's what needs to happen more in football. You know that they're having those hard conversations all the time, and you can see that on the field when they have those really big wins. And obviously towards the end of the year, they weren't trying to win a lot of games, but you can see how much it means to them. And I love that forward thinking and open opinion to be able to challenge the head coach.
Yeah, and Dean Cox gets the grunt of it, doesn't he? And he fights back, which is good. He's good, Dean Cox. And the best thing for the season, we mentioned it on the show when it happened, is when he got up and he hit his head on the little sprinkler. And then Stevie J stared at the door saying, "You're on camera, mate. This is going to be all over everything."
You can imagine that, those two going at it, Cox and Longmuir, and then bloody Stevie J just
J in the background.
Stevie J in the background, just throwing one in there and then just sort of going back into the crowd. That Simpsons meme where they go into the bushes, like throw a grenade in there, slowly sneak out. I love it.
Yeah, exactly, you would do. And I'm looking at the listings for Sydney and where to next, and no news yet.
No, because they started the rebuild when they needed to start a rebuild. They got rid of all their dead weight last year, so there's no problem for them. It's all good for Sydney going forward into the future.
Oh, we round out the bottom four source. It's strange to say this in our lifetime, especially the Hawthorn Hawks.
Yeah, Hawthorn had a really disappointing season, probably the first time in a long time that we are talking about Hawthorn. Actually, do you know what? It's we haven't talked about them on this show outside of finals for in terms of season over. Hawthorn finished 15th, 5 wins, really, really disappointing. Showed some promise early in a couple of games, but realistically, a terrible season for Hawthorn fans.
Yeah, very disappointing, especially when they've tried to reload, really, haven't they? They've got a lot of ex players from other clubs that are a little bit older, and their age demographic is very high at the moment. So they are relying on not homegrown talent, but mostly the recruits. So what I've done is Hawthorn. It's a little bit of a celebration. So not a celebration that they're in the bottom four, but a celebration of what has been, and they've done an absolutely fantastic job. It doesn't matter where they are now. Look what they did. They had a three-peat. They were up there for however many years. They won in 2008 as well. They won 4 premierships in the last 12 years. So that is a very, very good strike rate. So hashtag the time of our lives, because in football, nothing gets much better than this. And I was having a little bit of a Google of the time of our lives, and Miley Cyrus actually has a song. And the start of this song source with the lyrics, it just says, "Seems like we're holding on forever," which is what most Hawthorn fans are trying to do, and Clarko and the list management are holding on forever. I got to let it go. So getting a little bit somber, you've just got to let it go. We're done. We're starting the rebuild. Time's up. You push me to surrender.
Is this did I miss the cue of an AFL podcast? We're talking Pap Smears and Miley Cyrus. Is this a 16-year-old Dolly magazine podcast? I'm a little bit unsure.
Well, did you not hear those lyrics? Absolutely perfect for to sum up Hawthorn.
Do you know what I think is a better? I agree. What your hashtag? What was your hashtag then? Time of our lives.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the Green Day's classic is a much better. Good riddance. Time of our lives. Get them out of there. I'm glad it's over. Geelong supporter. Oh, I've gone the other way, Pez. Don't worry about the celebration. Yes, they've had a good time, but hashtag Hawkward, because I think it was a little bit awkward that no one told Alistair Clarkson that they were rebuilding.
He could have got out there a year earlier, right? And tried to do that, because they did. Where did they finish? They finished top 4 the year before, didn't they? And went out straight sets.
Yep, straight sets. Because they shouldn't have been there. They got gifted a great, easy fixture. But
that's a huge big fall from grace still.
Massive. But yeah, I do muck around saying it's good riddance that they're not in the finals. Being a Geelong supporter, obviously having some classic rivalries with the Hawks, but it definitely was a celebration of the last 12 years, as you said, 4 premierships in 12 years, massive feat. They'll go down as one of the greatest teams of all time for or the modern era at least. But I think that it's time for Hawthorn actually to rebuild. We know they don't go through the draft normally, but in this day and age, I think that's how they're going to have to bottom out and rebuild from the start.
Yeah, well, they got Will Day, who was top 5 in the Rising Star as well. So they do have some young talent in there. They've got some other middle-aged talent for AFL standards, that 24 to 28 bracket. And then they've got the older blokes as well. Burgoyne said he's going to go around again for a year and things like that. So very interesting there. Connor Glass retired. Ricky Henderson retired. Puopolo retired, and Ben Stratton retired as well. So they've started it. I think there'll be a few delistings and things like that, and a few players available in terms of, like, Isaac Smith is probably going to be up for trade, and if someone wants him, give a high-ish pick for him, and a few more players will actually be on the trade table and find themselves new homes in 2021.
Yeah, most definitely. They did find some young talent, as you said, Will Day, Damien Greaves in their back line, Dylan Moore, Jamie Cousins, Harrison Morrison look promising. But yeah, it is time to reload and just offload those middle-aged players, as you said. Shane Burgoyne going around again, I think that's a great move. You can keep that sort of experience there, a person who knows what it takes to win at that level. He still obviously works hard. He still can contribute. I think he's a good person to keep around the club. And you know what? If he's not actually getting a game on game day, then he is going to be offering heaps at training. So I think he's a good going around one more year. But it'll be interesting the big question is whether Clarkson goes around next year.
Yeah, or he finds a new home with a GWS list that's possibly still ready to have another crack at it and things like that. So, Clarko,
that would be a big move. That would be a massive move, Pez. Leon Cameron out, Alistair Clarkson in. The premiership pedigree continues.
I don't know why they re-signed Leon Cameron so late in the year for another couple of seasons. It's just ludicrous to me. But Clarko will probably find a home somewhere like that. I can't see him not coaching, actually. I think he really enjoys it and he looks like he really loves it. So interesting to see what happens. I don't think he wants to be a part of a rebuild, but he might have to for one more year, sit it out, and then find a home with someone that gets sacked and something like that. But Hawthorn, it's a celebration. You're there, but now it's time to say goodbye. We are done.
Exactly. Good riddance. Let's get on to the team that finished 14th. Big surprise. Probably the biggest improver of the year. The Gold Coast Suns, they finished 14th. My adopted team, they finished with 5 wins. Pez, I know your hashtag is going to be premiership next year. So lay it on us, Pez. Tell us how proud of you are, our Suns.
Oh, not so. Stop calling them our Suns. I'm not all over the graveyard, mate. Come on. Hashtag rising dead, because they were dead and they're starting to rise, starting to show a little bit of promise, starting to be in games for longer. They kind of lost their effort and things towards the end of the season there, but they were really in a lot of games where they should have won by a lot more in some cases. They should have actually won some games where they lost in some cases as well. So they're not there yet, but they are building towards that. Stuart Dew is in charge there, and they've got rid of a lot of talent over the years, a lot of great talent. Like their co-captains 1 year left, Stephen May and Tom Lynch, and that says a lot about the club. Dion Prestia, a 2-time premiership player, has also left, and best and fairest in a premiership year as well. So they lose a lot. They're getting a lot in because Matt Rowell, he's had some experience as an assistant coach now down on the bench, and I think they're building a really good culture up there. And Sam Collins is a leader down back, who's really shown a lot as a defender. So it's looking up. I can't see them going down. I can see them staying around the same area of the ladder, probably trying to push for finals would be their goal.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, they had 4 wins by round 7. And then, you know, we know they had Matt Rowell go down and they had a range of other things happen and the effort wasn't there. But my hashtag is hashtag Suns out, guns out, because they are building an absolute star-studded lineup. Matt Rowell, Noah Anderson, Isaac Rankin, Ben King, Lockie Weller, Hugh Greenwood, and they've also got a lot of players coming through in that Gold Coast Academy. They're going to be up there and they're going to be slowly rising, as you've said, Pez, finals next year for sure.
Yeah, and that's what, say, Hawthorn bring in the players when they're in their 30s or whatever and trying to stay in that premiership window, whereas what Gold Coast have done now, they're actually bringing in the players that are around that 26, 27, 28 when they're in their prime to help the young guys like a Hugh Greenwood, who's been an absolutely massive pickup for that club. So interesting where they're going. I know you're going to be all over them next year. And a big list really for delistings and retirings as well, Sauce, with Jacob Dawson, Corey Ellis, Sam Fletcher, Pierce Hanley has retired, coming over from Brisbane there. Jacob Heron, George Hall and Smith retired, probably forced to retire, I'd say. Jesse Joyce delisted. Anthony Miles retired with another club that didn't work out for him. Mitch Reardon and Jesse Schoenfeld. I don't really know how to say that.
Josh Schoenfeld there, mate. I'll help you out. Stop thinking of our mate JB.
That's all I'm thinking about.
Josh
Every time
Schoenfeld.
I see Jay, I think Jesse Baird. He's debuting in the finals. I'm so nervous for the man.
Yeah, most definitely. I promise listeners, we are a football podcast. We're not just on. I feel like we've mentioned nothing but football. We've got on a whole range of different things. The goal umpire, Jesse Baird, he's not getting delisted in anytime soon, Pez. So don't mention his name in the word same sentence as delisting again, please.
No, that's it. Any more thoughts on your Suns?
No, Pez, I'll be talking too much about them next year to bore you with talking about them now. Let's get on to the next team in our show. 13th place, Essendon Bombers. A really, really disappointing season for them after starting off the season in a really great position. They were 5-2, with Melbourne in hand by round 8. And after that, for them not to make the finals, you tell a team that they're 5-2 going into round 8, and them not to make the finals, you'd be extremely disappointed. So, what's your hashtag for them?
Yeah, 5-2 with a game under belt to play against Melbourne. A lot of Essendon supporters I know were super excited because they were top 4, they were in the top of the ladder, they were going to be top 2 and get a final. The COVID year was the most amazing thing because they were going to win a premiership in the COVID year, and it wasn't going to have an asterisk next to it because Essendon won. But as soon as they realised that their team was no good, that changed, and they said this year doesn't really count. Let's just end it here. My hashtag is actually a number. Hashtag 5,689. I love it. The count of the amount of days since Essendon have last won a final.
And you're probably going to add another 365 days onto that one, Bez, because their outlook for next year is not looking good. And that sort of supports my hashtag is Essendon done. Because I am done with Essendon.
Done.
Next year, if I mention anything about Essendon being good, can you just punch me in the face? Because the last 3 years I've said that they've been good. Their list has lied to me. I'm as frustrated as Essendon supporters. I'm done with them. I don't want to talk about them anymore. How can you be 5-2 up to round 8 and then finish with 6 wins? 6 wins, Pez. That's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I think there was a range of things that went wrong for them. They had the third worst percentage in the league for a start, 79.2, and they finished with what did I say? 6 wins. They finished with 6 wins. I think that they tried at the start of the year to play that Richmond-style forward handball game. Obviously having Ben Rutten and Blake Carousella in the reins coming across from Richmond, but they just don't have the list for it. Their list on paper looks good, but they had too many injuries. They're probably going to lose Joe Danaher. They'll probably lose Fantasia. Jake Stringer can't stay on the field. I don't know what they do to fix it, and I'm done talking about them. So I'll handball it over to you, mate, because I'm done.
Yeah, another rebuilding club here. Maybe they should go down to Tasmania with that Joker Club North as well, and maybe do a little bit of a merger. Have a what would it be? Black, red, white, and blue. A bit of a team there. The Bomberoos, something like that. Idea for the AFL. But they. You know what? They'd probably put together a side with their 2 lists. They can use every single player and still not be competitive. So. That's not too good when you say it like that. They do have some promising young players like Jordan Ridley, best and fairest winner.
Should have been all Australian.
Wants to stay on as well, and he had a really positive year. Dyson Heppel, he had a bad injury during the year as well with the break. So that's not too good. Tom Bell Chambers is now retired, so they're putting a lot of eggs in to Sam Draper's basket, who hopefully can develop as a ruckman. But we know. He is a mature age as a 21-year-old type of rookie, but they take a long time, ruckman. So they usually get to about 24. So you can usually find a ruckman that's ready to go later on and not try and, do that with Sam Draper. Hopefully become a good player for them. Tip and Woody, you're going to waste his talent and his speed down in that forward line at the moment. Ash McGrath's pretty good in the midfield. Merritt doesn't do enough for me. He gets a lot of the pill, but it doesn't, like a Tom Mitchell type sort of thing. I think he finished 3rd in the Brownlow the other year, which was really surprising. And then he comes out and he's not anywhere near that anyway. So Hurley, who is probably the one that complains the most about giving away a free kick or giving away a mark when he does it all the time.
It's not complaining. It's like absolute disappointment. It's like
and frustration. He thinks he's the best defender in the league or something, and he loses a contest, and he's like, "Oh, this is the worst thing ever."
He looks like a kid when you've taken away their toy, and you're like, "You know what? I'm taking this. You're not getting it back for the week." You can see it just like there's nothing you can do about it, mate. The facial expression says everything. You're so frustrated, but you've done the wrong thing. Like, just get over it.
Yeah, like it's all right. It's all right to do that sometimes, Michael Hurley, but. Just try and stop it more than you don't. But not too many other positives for Essendon, to be honest. Josh Begley delisted, Tom Bell Chambers retired, Noah Gown delisted, Mitch Hibbard delisted, Connor McKenna retired. He didn't even want to be out there this year, did he, Connor McKenna? Sean McKernan delisted, and Kobe Much delisted.
Yeah, Kobe Much delisted. That sounds funny in that sentence. Kobe Much delisted. No, but you are right, Pez. They were not many promising sign for them, and it's disappointing that Adam Sard probably having his career best, and he's most likely being connected with a lot of other clubs. He's probably going to leave. They took way too long to unleash Sammy Draper and Irving Mosquito on us and let us enjoy that, but. Really disappointing for Essendon to finish off the way they did after having that start they did. And the coach that they had, he had one foot out the door from the moment he was there. You are getting Rutten taking over. Hopefully he can sort of implement that game plan, but realistically, I think they're going to have a few more people leaving as well. I think, as I said, Fantasia, Danaher gone, and I don't really know what next for them. I don't know how they fix it. If they lose Danaher, they obviously need some sort of forward. They have been linked to Jordan Ngoe, but I doubt that he'll probably sign there. They'll probably get someone more like Tom McDonald. Is probably more a realistic target, which is really disappointing for them because they're going to finish roughly where Melbourne finished if Tom McDonald's your lead forward there. They need to keep Joe Danaher. If they can keep Joe Danaher, then I can see some promise for them next year, and I'll probably buy into them again next year, but they need to keep Joe Danaher, number one priority.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk about that with club legends coming out and saying, make up your mind, Essendon, why are you giving it this much time? He's had 18 months to think about it pretty much. He hasn't played hardly any games, and there's been the talk of him looking disinterested, sitting on the fence and things like that during games, but he's their superstar player if they can keep him and Danaher name at the club and just revitalise that club. But if they can't, they're just going to have to start the whole rebuild and put some others up for trade and things like that because they're not going to do anything.
And surely that shows you in itself the fact that club legend, Danaher name linked to Essendon forever, that he has spent 18 months deciding his fate at the club. He obviously doesn't want to be there, but he can't bring it in himself in his heart of hearts to actually leave because he knows how much the name means to the club. But there's obviously something going on there. He doesn't believe in the list. You're right. He doesn't look delisted. He doesn't look interested. And I don't think it's a promising sign, but it is a promising sign that 18 months later, he still hasn't decided. So they're still in for a shot. So I would be whining and dining him and doing everything you can to keep him there. They need to keep him there. And
they've had to try and do that this year, and it's been a really tough year to be able to do that. Adrian Dodoro, obviously, historically, really hard to deal with during trade week and the trade period. And he's just horrible to deal with because Sydney were offering some good deals last year for Joe Danaher. They didn't take it. And in hindsight, that now looks like a mistake because they're not going to get as good a deal as they were going to get when he leaves at the end of this season.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, speaking of end of seasons, we do get on to the next team in Fremantle Dockers, the 12th finishing Fremantle. Had 7 wins, which is they had 8 wins last year. So they've gone down in terms of wins, but they've gone up in ladder positions because last year they finished 13th. So a much improved sort of Fremantle side. We didn't expect them to be as performing as that they did, as high performing. Pez, hashtag for Freo.
Hashtag Freo is a very simple one. Hashtag Rising Stars, because young Caleb Sarong won the Rising Star for Fremantle. Very, very good to see. Got some extra help for Fife. I think the other Rising Star, and the reason I did it plural, is their coach Longmuir, because he's done an absolutely fantastic job with this club. Ross Lyon came in and was all defence, and that's what Longmuir has done as well. Defence, and now he's starting to creep in that offensive game style to them. So they've learnt the basics, they've learnt the defense of what they need to do and how they can switch between that. And then now they've got to get that elite kicking skills where they can transfer from the back line to the forward line and score because they've learnt one end of the ground. Now you've got to learn the other end of the ground.
Yeah, most definitely. And I 100% agree with that. My hashtag is all to that. I've gone hashtag anchor management because I think the decision that Longmuir is doing there in managing that side and those young stars, you obviously got the superstar in Fife, but they had 3 players actually named in that 40 All-Australian squad in Tabernar, Luke Ryan and Fife. Pair those with Brayshaw and Sarong. If they have same sort of, those sort of seasons again next year, they've got Lobe in the ruck there. Like, they're a decent sort of side. And if, as you said, if they can start to have another preseason with that defensive pressure anchoring, and I love the pun, anchoring into a strong offense and a forward pressure where we know that they can score, they're going to be a good side, and then they're probably going to improve again, and they would be aiming for top 8 next year if they can have that same output from those young stars. And then, of course, you're going to get some other players that, couldn't get on the park, like Alex Pearce couldn't get on the park. You had Sam Sturt that they couldn't really get as many games into as well. You forget about Sam Sturt, the highly talented 17th pick in last year's draft who couldn't really get on the park. There's 2 more players that step into that side, and realistically, finals next year for Fremantle is a realistic aim, and I think they should be really successful into it if they continue to develop this great game plan that Longmuir is putting in.
They definitely should. They've got the culture there because you've got one of the best players in the competition, Nathan Fife, who knew this team was going to go through this period after their grand final appearance and signed a long-term contract to stay there. You mentioned some of the young players, Adam Chera as well. I'd add to that list. And Blake Acres and James Aish, not the big names, but they've been impressive in that last month of footy on the wing. So, they've got some players there. They've got things to work with. Another one that I will mention is Brennan Cox, who was a failed forward, you could say. And they've moved him into defence, and he's actually played very well. I didn't know he'd be that mobile, but watching him in defence, he actually, get some stops to have a bit of a basketball term and rebounds the ball and nice left foot kick. So there you go.
Yeah, they've done really well, Fremantle. Most people didn't expect them to be even close to where they are now. The list didn't offer much promise, but the fact that we're talking about how highly talented the list is and how much potential they have really shows you that how well they've been managed and a great job that the coaching staff's done in Fremantle.
Yeah, and we talk about their delisting, so no retirements because obviously they're a bit of a young club. So Isaiah Butters, Jason Carter, Hugh Dixon, Tom North, Dylan O'Reilly, Jarvis Pina, all delisted. Then you got Cam McCarthy, who came from GWS. He's had a few issues in his career, so he's been delisted as well. And one that surprised me, Sauce, was Brandon Matero, who came from the Gold Coast and a lively little forward at times up at the Gold Coast and at Fremantle. Not a regular spot in the side and a delisting at the end of the year.
Yeah, he was one of those players that you're excited to watch. I remember when he first played at Gold Coast, he was exciting and sort of popped up. He had the Matera name, which made you pay attention. But yeah, just couldn't get a regular gig in the Fremantle squad. But I like what they've done. They just cut the dead weight, bang, off. We've got a potential to not top up with players. We're going to back our young talent. Any of these players here that are that 27 to 28 line, they don't fit our timeline, boom, you're gone. I feel like they could have got something for Matera, but obviously, he was out of contract. They probably could have shopped him around last year, probably a bit better. But yeah, it's good to see no retirements. It means that for Fremantle fans, and we've got a massive Perth following Pez, they should be excited for 2021.
That's it, and shout out to all the Perth followers over there. We don't know if they are Fremantle supporters or West Coast supporters, but yeah, they'll hate it or love it, depending on which one they are.
Yeah, they'll either really agree with us and probably have more to add, or they'll absolutely disagree with us, call us idiots, and probably unsubscribe. So please don't do that. Make sure you just, instead of unsubscribe, hit the 5-star ratings and just chuck that in there for us instead.
little cheeky one. There you go. The Purple Haze.
The Purple Haze. We go from one colour to another, Pez, with the 11th finishing Carlton Blues. Finished with 7 wins. I'm going to straight out say it. It was a really, really disappointing season for them. They won just 7 games, which isn't really impressive for them. They had a massive jump in percentage from last year, but too many times they let big leads go away, and they had too many single-digit defeats with Melbourne, Port Adelaide and GWS, 3 teams that were all fighting for finals. What's your hashtag for Carlton?
Yeah, so you spoke about that with Carlton going missing in games. In the Melbourne game, it was very, very obvious where they didn't play in the first half, and then they came back in the second half but couldn't quite get over the line, and only winning 7 games. They're that type of team, Source, that is just always teasing their fans like, oh yeah, we're coming. Remember that slogan? What was that? Maybe more than 10 years ago, maybe. We're coming. They know we're coming.
Oh, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for them to come.
Still waiting. And so are Carlton fans. I've got hashtag heavy load because Patrick Cripps shoulder reconstruction. He's trying to carry that team. He didn't have the best season, young Patrick Cripps. A big positive, Jacob Wiedering down full back, who had a lot of one-on-one contests as well. So he is a big positive for them. A couple of forwards. They get Curnow back next year as well, Charlie Curnow, to add to that forward line. They've got a couple of forwards down there in like Levi Casbolt, who's not really a goal kicker. He's really good at marking the ball, but he can't get into the right positions and things like that. They've got a couple of pieces there. The Sam Walsh, amazing young talent and really great young player, one of the best under-22 players we have in the competition at the moment, really shone through. But I don't know where they go to from here. Like, are they actually coming, Source?
It's really interesting, and Pez, I have to credit you because I couldn't keep my maturity levels up there. You talked about the heavy load as being your hashtag and whether or not they were coming, so well played for talking about the actual talent there because I could not have done that. My hashtag is exactly around that same sort of thing, the question that you just asked, like can they do it? What are they doing with their list? What happens next for them? Is I've gone hashtag blueberries. Now, you may try to work this one out. So hashtag blueberries because blueberries generally have a sweeter sort of taste and they've got a bit of acid in it. But some days with Carlton, they are absolutely sweet and juicy and they're absolutely amazing to eat with their best football. You'd eat them for days because they're so grouse. And then other times, that same punnet of blueberries, you pick them up and they are sour and you spit that right out because it's absolute garbage. And that's the
sour acid, huh?
That's the two difference. That's the difference with Carlton. Is their best football and their worst football is miles and miles and miles apart. That it's so disappointing, and that's what's stopping them. Is they need to learn to beat the teams below them. Simple, absolutely simple. Yep. Don't get in positions in games where you're 30 points down. That is ridiculous. That happened 3 or 4 times, and they got eliminated from the finals in the second last week. If they win those games, they're in finals. They've got amazing young talent there, as you said. Wiedering made All-Australian in a team. Well, he should have made All-Australian.
Made my All-Australian.
Made my All-Australian as well. Harry McKay had a very promising year. Mark Pitnet, one of the elite sort of ruckman in the league early in the year. You talked about their midfield, Walsh and Cripps. They've also had, they picked up Jack Martin, who was promising throughout the year. They just need to organise themselves. They're going to get Zach Williams next year. 99% sure that's going to happen. They probably, if they want to sort of salute that, I'd be targeting Brad Crouch as well. And then they're going to have a consistent midfield. And then all they've got to do is learn to win. They've got to be that sweet-tasting blueberry and not those sour grape ones.
I'm looking forward to next year, and I hope this coronavirus stuff goes over because we know they're doing list cuts and cuts at football clubs, and I'm really worried about the mascots. But I think Carlton definitely do need their mascot and get that big blueberry suit out and get them running around the field because that blueberry, he could be on acid as well, and he might have to be to sit through the Carlton games.
I'm glad that you like my hashtag. Did you hear that? Just on a separate note, did you hear the Geelong mascot actually got the sack? The guy who does the Geelong, who's done it for like 15 years, got the sack. He actually got delisted.
What did he do?
No, he got delisted like budget cuts. They paid him as a job, so they're just going to obviously get a volunteer or something to do it.
Oh, that's sad. Does he get to keep the suit?
Oh, well, they did have the picture of him walking out, holding the head in the hand and looking disappointed, but I'm getting that was just the media take. But like blueberries would have been a better pick than the M&Ms that Carlton did with a couple of years ago, so they should have gone with blueberries. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing that. They could get Willy Wonka put on the big screen. Watch Violet. Does she turn into a blueberry? Is that what she turns into in the Willy Wonka show?
Yeah, Violet. You're turning Violet.
Is that a blueberry violet or a violet blueberry? Violet berry? Oh, I don't know, mate.
I don't know. I feel like we're talking about things that aren't football. You spoke about being excited for next year. Carlton, how many players got delisted from them that aren't coming back for Carlton?
Oh, Carlton, let me get to that.
Well, I know we can start one off with probably the biggest name to retire for Carlton in a long time. You had Cade Simpson, who's been a staple of that club. Anyone under the age of 15 probably hasn't actually watched a Carlton game without Cade Simpson in there. You had Ben Silvani delisted, Finbar O'Dyer delisted, Darcy Lang, an ex-Geelong player, Matthew Cruiser, the highly stouted number 1 pick, and Hugh Goddard delisted for Carlton. So disappointing for a couple of those blokes who couldn't sneak into a regular spot in that side.
Yeah, well, Hugh Goddard at his second club wasn't able to make it. He was a promising young talent as well. Cruiser just ruled by injuries, and in years to come, we will be speaking about him as one of the most unluckiest players to play the game because it seems like Carlton Richmond, we'd always watch Carlton be competitive and Richmond come over the top and win in that round 1 game, and then Matthew Cruiser get injured. That's usually what would happen.
And the worst thing was with Cruiser, every time he stepped on that park, the talent was undeniable. He was elite, and you're like, oh my goodness, if they can keep him fit, they're going to be really dangerous. And every year from Carlton fans, you heard it. Oh, he's had a really strong preseason. He's looking good. Round 2, boom, done. See ya. Yeah. Then he normally performed round 17 or something like that, and there was his next game, and then they were done. Like, it's disappointing.
It was super disappointing. Like I think it was round one this year where he did get injured actually in that first game without fans on the day, and it was just it's just no. You don't like to see that. You don't love to see that. Players cruelled by injuries, and that's what happened to Cruiser. And bad luck Carlton, because they had a good one, and they could have gone done a lot better if they had a fit and firing Cruiser for his career.
Exactly right. Perfect segue there, Pez. Talking about having a good one and could have done much, much, much better. It brings with sadness that I have to say this: the 10th finishing GWS Giants. Pez, fans of the show know that we love the GWS Giants. We were all over painting the town orange. This was the year of the Giant, the Orange Giant. They finished with 8 wins, 9 losses. A really, really disappointing season for the Gold Coast, the Giants of GWS, mate.
Maybe they're turning into the new Gold Coast, mate. Maybe the next graveyard. But I like my hashtag here, and I don't usually say that. Usually a source. I like my bet slip, but I do, because you did mention the colour orange, and we painted the town orange when they made the grand final, and now they're not even in the finals. So very disappointing. Have Leon Cameron. They got rid of Heath Shaw today as well. So Heath Shaw's looking for a new club as well. So very big news there. Hashtag orange is the new brown. Absolute shit.
Jesus, Pez. Yeah, Pez, I'm going to say my hashtag, and then we need to get in this, because I've gone down the exact same thing. I'm holding no prisoners. Hashtag soft sound. Because I agree with you. Sure. Absolute shit.
Yeah, it's a really quiet sound this year. Like, they've got so much talent and so much. We say it all the time, but they just don't connect. They don't have that collaboration together. They don't. Do they play for themselves? I don't even know. I wouldn't know how to fix it myself. I'd love to see Alistair Clarkson go in there next year with that list. That's one thing I would absolutely love to see. And if that happened, how could you pick this team for the finals with what they showed this year? It's super disappointing.
It's one of 3 things, Pez. They don't believe in the coach and the system, okay, which is ridiculous, because when they move the ball down the middle, they are one of the best teams in the league. They're high, take out Lockie Whitfield, their ball movement is horrendous. Take out that that way that they attack it. The second one is they're all about their own egos, right? And they don't do and this is very evident that they never use the first option. They're always looking for can I beat this person on my own first? And then, then it's the second option is the player there. The third thing is that the talent is actually just not there. And it's just, they had one good year and they were one and done, but I don't believe that the case. The best thing that I think for GWS is that they didn't make the finals. If they can keep a lot of their list, hopefully you can have something similar to the 206 Geelong Cats, where they sit down. The only thing that's positive is they actually get to have those hard conversations. And I would be sitting down.
Bit of internal review, you reckon?
Oh, they need an internal review, Pez, because there's too many times for you go through that list, star-studded. Every single position, talent among talent and among talent. We always talk about it. One person goes out, boom, another talented player comes in. They need to ask the hard questions, and anyone that doesn't want to be there, there's the door. See you later. And I like the idea of Clarkson coming in, or someone that comes in and just needs to say, hey, you guys were a terrible club. You were a terrible club. You were doing poorly. You now are building a legacy. They had been in the last 3 second last week of finals. The last 3. And now you finish 10th?
10th.
10th.
Even worse.
Not good enough.
They need a kiss.
Not
they
good
need a
enough.
Kiss, Sauce.
Hey?
They need a kiss.
They need a kiss.
You know what KISS stands for, yeah?
No.
Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple. Get the ball inside 50 and you might be able to win games.
It's so frustrating because there's some of my favourite players, Toby Green, Lockie Whitfield, Tim Taranto. They play for the team and they're just shit. This year was so disappointing after starting round 1. They knocked off my Cats. They did it in convincing fashion. And I thought, you know what? Year of the Giant. I'm on here. I picked them for the grand final. Picked them for the premiers. And you didn't even make finals? Get stuffed. Yeah, that's shit ass.
How bad is that? Like, it makes you speechless because you say your favourite players that you love to watch play. But, they won some games, like the Carlton game, for example. Carlton versus GWS. Carlton won and played better in 3/4 of that game, and GWS decided, I'm going to try and flick a switch now and win this game in a quarter and kick 4 goals. And they did it. And then they celebrated, and then everyone thought, all right, they're going to continue on with this form. No, they're not. They lost to Adelaide.
And that's the frustration is, what, do they just not believe in the corona? And we actually said coming out of the I was about to say the bubble then, NBA terms, coming out of coronavirus, the pandemic, where we're lockdown, we said one of the best teams that looked from all the videos we'd seen was GWS. They looked like a really close-knit group. The football they displayed was not that, and maybe it's because they had an interrupted preseason. We had round 1, they looked good, then they had that big break, thought, we've put all this effort in the preseason, we can't do it. Maybe that's an excuse. Need to see something next year, Pez, because they face trouble keeping and retaining players as it is. If they are not making finals, they've got no chance retaining players.
They're going to become an irrelevant club if it happens like that and their talent keeps leaving, because they need to keep it. They signed Caniglio, their captain, for what was an 8-year deal a couple of years back, and paying him big money, and then they drop him the second. I don't know if that was the right call to drop your captain when your finals are on the line and things like that. Probably in hindsight, he wouldn't do it again. But Sam Jacobs retired, tried to go down there for a year. Shane Mumford still beat him to a spot first in the side, which was really surprising. Heath Shaw, being delisted, shown the door today, and Tom Sheridan has now retired. So we don't know what else is going to go on at GWS, but there'll be more list changes, not so much in the delisting retirement stages, but the trade table, I think.
Yeah, hopefully they don't get raided and a lot of those players don't leave, because I'd like to see them have a proper run-in with it, a proper preseason in a normalised season, and with a good coach there, because we don't even know if it's the coach, Pez, but let's say it's just the coach, because there's too much talent there to disagree with that aspect of them making finals. So hopefully next year they have a big run-in of it. And I'll be still on the Giants because, as you've heard, I'm a sucker for teams with good lists. We've been Essendon in the last 5 years. You and I were on them every single week, right up until the last week. But disappointing for the Giants.
I know what's going to happen in the off-season. You're going to do your little list analysis and you're going to be like, well, Pez, so I'm feeling the Giants for the top 4. They're looking good.
Every single season, Pez. Every single season. And, you can't talk to me, Pez, because you were on them when they were sitting 11th or 12th and you're like, they're making the 8. They're making the 8. They had one impressive win and then after that they were dog shit.
Oh, yeah. And they're making the 8. How good did that look when they had that win?
That looked fantastic. I thought it was money for VB's Pez. I'm like, how's Pez with the little crystal ball there? But, wow.
And then they lose to Adelaide and I'm sitting there watching that game. I think it was on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night. And I'm just sitting there going, is this club serious? Are they taking this competition seriously? Really disappointing. But
really disappointing.
Speaking about disappointing, the ninth placed Melbourne Demons.
Yes, the Melbourne Demons again did not make finals. They were much improved from last year, finishing 17th, rising up to 9th, but they still did miss the finals with the last week, needing Fremantle to beat the Doggies. They finished with 9 wins. Disappointing season for Melbourne, or is it actually a positive season for Melbourne because they had a massive rise from 17th, Pez?
A positive season because they missed the finals, because they got to stop pretending to themselves, or they've got to stop giving their fans hope that they're actually a decent club. Yes, they're building and they're becoming that. 2018 was an anomaly. We got to stop talking about going back to that. They went into the top 4. They went over to West Coast, and we know the rest is history. And they haven't been able to perform since. What did they win? 2019, about 5 games. And then this year they've improved on that. So is it an improvement from 17th up to 9th? You're correct in what you say there. But they've got some talent. They've got a future Brownlow medalist, I think, in Christian Petrarca, who is explosive. He can go forward to kick goals, and that's what that medal is built for. So he will get noticed. If it's not this year, he'll probably get a lot of votes this year, but he will get even more votes next year because it usually takes them a year to get noticed by the umpires. So he's a really big positive. Their forward line, they need to do something with that. They need a key player down there. If it's bringing in a Ben Brown even, or someone that they can kick the ball to and have a target, because Tom McDonald didn't work down there. He played up the ground a bit, started working, but Bailey Fritsch and Sam Wiedemann are not your number 1 forwards. No. Yes, they can be the second and third, and they would be much better players as a second and third forward and not have that load on them. But they need to do something with that forward line.
You put Ben Brown or Joe Danaher or even Jeremy Cameron into that forward line, that's a really, really dangerous forward line. But that can't be your structure for your forward line, and it just can't be Pez. My hashtag for them is exactly the point that you've made there, Pez. Mine is the hashtag finals exodus, because what they need to do, Melbourne fans, they need to perform an exodus, and they need to get rid of those demons of that finals run that they had. They need to forget that, get rid of all those expectations, and take the club for what they are. They're a team that is about middle of the road. This year, they probably should have made finals. They let a couple of games go that they should have definitely taken control of. They've got poor skill level around the ground. They need to take the list for what it is and be happy at ninth. Build to next year, improve that skill level that they lack. They need to build a consistent 22, fix that forward line, and then you know what? They'll be good. Maybe.
That's it. Aim for the finals, but we can't see that happening and them being actually good. I didn't even say my hashtag D grade, and I wanted to grade them lower because not very good, but D as in DEE for the Demons. We'll give them a D grade like they're at school. They didn't make the finals. You don't pass.
That's a bit harsh, Pez, because you just told them that they had no expectations of finals, but then they didn't make it and you failed them. I think. Well,
they shouldn't have had expectations. But if I was a Demon supporter and they had expectations of them making finals, they failed, and they failed their club at that. And they should have done it in a 17-round season where they lost a couple of close games and lost some games that they shouldn't. So, yeah, that's their grade.
Yeah, well, and that's a D grade for them, and their season is finished. Same with some of these players. Harley Bennell has retired. Probably a long time coming.
Forced retirement.
Yeah, the old tap on the shoulder. Corey Wagner, Josh Wagner, and Kyle Dunkley are also delisted from the club. Surprising not to see Nate Jones in that sort of that there, because he was in and out of that squad. Found it hard to keep his spot, but looks like he's going around again.
Maybe they just haven't announced it yet, but he was very disappointed. He was in the warm-up in one game and got pulled out late. The week before, he injured his leg and went off and sat off for the last quarter, and they've shown him on the camera and he hasn't looked happy. He was on the path to 300 games.
Yeah, I think he was looking for playing the most games for Melbourne at one stage. I know he's the most player in history to play AFL and not play a finals until he played one last year or a couple of years ago. Yeah, 286 he's sitting on. 2006 he started, 138 goals, but disappointing for him. He probably wouldn't have made 20 this season, made the 300, but he's going around.
He wouldn't have made 300, but he would have had to play some finals and then go around again and hopefully get there. But I can't see him playing every game. I can't see him staying fit enough. I think he's lost a bit in his pace, and when you start to lose your pace, you start to go, and I don't think he should go around again.
I'll tell you what, just on a separate note, Nate Jones, so much respect for the footballer to stay at a club when he was highly touted from other clubs. He's performing, he's a decent sort of warrior for them, but his career highlights are a little bit disappointing. Melbourne captain from 2014 to 2019. 3 Keith Bluey Transcript medals, 12, 13, 14, when they were down the arse end of the bottom, and a 2-time AFL Rising Star nominee, 2006, 2007. That's a really disappointing career highlight.
At least he got nominated twice.
That's so disappointing for a bloke who would pride himself, and you can see his game routines, and he's an absolute champion of Melbourne. But at 32, you can't imagine that he's probably going to go around and perform as consistently as he did back in those those glory days, I guess, at 2012, 13, and 14 when he won three straight club champion medals.
Yeah, glory days for Melbourne supporters. It hasn't happened in a long time. But yeah, Nathan Jones, time to hang it up probably, and hopefully he proves us wrong, and hopefully he goes around and has a really good season and does something with it and helps Melbourne try and climb into that finals and try and get rid of those demons, as you said.
Yeah, it'd be nice after a big sort of career, after a 15-year career, to have 2 finals appearances. It'd be really nice. So hopefully he can do that. Hopefully he can sort of get that done. But Pez,
add that to the accolades. I'm surprised it doesn't say something like 18 Brownlow votes or something like that, though.
Oh, it probably does. I'm on Wikipedia, mate, so I just did the quick Google, so I knew that whilst the information can't always be extremely accurate, generally most of the basic facts are correct, and not much for poor old Nate Jones. But that's...
And thank you to our sponsors over at Wikipedia as well.
Yeah, make sure you jump across to Wikipedia and get up some of that fake news.
Oh, and that's good. Always good fun speaking about the bottom 10 teams now with the 18-team competition. And we had our hashtags there. Let us know what your hashtags are at Behind the Bound on Twitter and Instagram, and Behind the Boundary on Facebook as well. We are going to be doing a Cheeky Punt pod for the pre-final show Sauce coming up, probably on the Thursday night, so we can have the most up-to-date information on the finals as well.
Yeah, can't wait for that show, Pez. Really excited for finals football. And after that, we'll be saying goodbye to two more teams. So can't wait to discuss those and see those hashtags.
Yep, we'll do continuing this segment of season over right up until after the grand final, until all teams are eliminated except one who is holding up the Corona Cup.
The Corona Cup, you flog. I like that.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard anyone call it that yet.
No, I haven't either. I can't believe it hasn't been toted, the Corona Cup. So hashtag Corona Cup, hashtag JB for president, hashtag, what did you say? Finger sticks or goals or something like that for our man JB.
I think I said the word shit for a lot of clubs today. So, yeah, hashtag shit.
All right, Pez, you might wrap up before I have to do too much work censoring some of this stuff.
I'm Pez. Peace out.
I'm still Saucer. We'll catch up next time.